Hey everyone, I'm out here in the garage today, and you're probably wondering why I have an old muffler sitting right next to me here. And that's because I got a call from my relative who owns a G35X about some rattling noise coming from the rear of her car when she's pointed downhill and her car is running. So I had her bring the car over to my house, and I took a look at the rear of the car, and I suspected that it might be some sort of exhaust hanger issue or maybe even some sort of a heat shield issue. And what I found instead was that the flange here was separated from the muffler pipe. So what that rattling noise was is basically this muffler pipe was banging on the mid pipe. So that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be replacing the muffler on that G35X. So I've already done that replacement. I'm just going to show you the footage of that. So stay tuned. So my relative and I had always wondered why this G35 in particular seemed to have a throatier growl than other stock G35s, and now we know why. Before I could get started on the muffler replacement, I needed to jack up the rear end of the G35, and if you're not sure how to jack up the rear of the G35, check out the video I made on that subject. To get started on this muffler replacement, I needed to remove the nuts attaching the mid pipe to the muffler. So I used a wire brush first to knock off some of the corrosion. I would next apply a penetrating oil such as PB Blaster or Croil, or use a torch to heat up the nuts. Check out this video of the Acura Legend catalytic converter replacement where I use my favorite technique involving a torch and beeswax. If you have air tools, I would make use of those air tools during this job. It makes it go much easier. And in this case, what I'm doing is using a 14mm deep socket on an impact wrench. Now, there are actually two nuts on this side of the flange. The first nut holds down what appears to be a grounding wire. So once those two 14mm nuts are removed, I move to the other side of the flange and remove that nut also. At this point, you can try to take the muffler off the mounting rubber, but it seemed much easier to detach the mounting bracket from the car and drop everything with the muffler. So I'm using a 12mm socket to remove the bolt on the driver's side. As you saw, the muffler dropped after removing the bolt. So to avoid a concussion from a falling muffler, I supported it with my jack while I removed the three 12mm bolts holding the rear bracket in place. Then I lowered the muffler to the ground. Alright, so here are the new and old mufflers side by side. I'm installing bolt saw 145165 for the 2004 G35X sedan. So you want to make sure you check the date of manufacture by looking at the label on the driver's door jamb, because mufflers on first-gen G35 sedans manufactured up to August of 04 hang differently from mufflers on sedans manufactured from August 2004 and up. The date of manufacture for this particular car happens to be December of 03. So if your car is in that category where it's manufactured from August 04 and up, then you'll want to use 145211 instead. And of course, sedan and coupe mufflers are totally different from each other. Comparing the new aftermarket muffler to the OEM muffler, I could tell there may be a slight difference in the way it hangs, and you'll see that difference later. Alright, so let's get on with the replacement. I swapped the mounting hardware onto the new muffler, which first required applying a little bit of silicone paste to the muffler hangers, then sliding their mounting rubbers off the hangers. Before installing the muffler, I removed the flange gasket with a screwdriver. Cleaned up the mid pipe with a wire brush. Then install the new gasket. I decided that since I wasn't sure about fitment, I would install all the fasteners loosely first. So I propped the muffler up on my jack with some of the packaging between the jack and the muffler to protect it from damage. Then I threaded in the 3 rear bracket bolts by hand. And loosely install the driver's side bracket bolt. Since the new muffler does not include studs or any fasteners, I bought 2 high strength and corrosion resistant bolts at the local AutoZone. Their size is 10 millimeters by 1.25 thread pitch by 35 millimeters long. You can probably get away with using a shorter bolt than 35 millimeters. I also bought a couple OEM nuts at the local dealer and reused one of the original nuts. You may also want to use flat washers and lock washers since through bolts are being installed. Basically what I did here is alternate back and forth tightening the flange fasteners. Then I use a torque wrench and a box wrench to tighten the fasteners to 30 foot-pounds. Also, don't forget to install the cable back on the exhaust too. Lastly, I tightened up the 4 bracket bolts, and those are tightened down to 10 foot-pounds. I didn't really use a torque wrench here, I just tightened them up until I felt like they were tight enough and called it good. So here's a picture of the muffler on the G35, and you can see that it's a little offset to the right, and the pipes are also not at the same level. So when I finished this up, it was around 9 o'clock at night, and we really didn't have many options in terms of trying to adjust it. So what I'm going to do is have my relative bring the car back over and see if there's any way I can adjust it so it looks a little bit better. Alright, so there you have it, G35 muffler replacement done. It actually sounded pretty good. It sounded a lot like stock to me, so that end of things looked really good. Of course, the fitment wasn't the greatest in the world, but we had to work with what we had based on the time constraints we had. So check out some other videos on this channel of the G35X. I'm going to probably be making quite a few more videos on that car because I suspect something else will break. It's actually a pretty good car. It's old. It's a 2004. We're talking, 15-year-old car. So things are going to break on it. And thanks for watching.